What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. Another spectacular guest joining us here on Monday to recap another chaotic finish for the second consecutive week, and for the second consecutive week as well, a back nine collapse that we're surely going to talk lots about. And if you're joining us right now, be sure to go and jump on over to the YouTube feed so you can interact with us down in the comment section. Let us know who you're going to be tailing for this week's FedEx St. Jude Championship, your thoughts on Max Greysermans' blunder down the stretch. Aaron Rye, a big community win in the golf gambling community on X, cashes a 35, 40 to 1 ticket, depending on what you got him at. But yeah, a second consecutive chaotic finish. I think a proper finish to the PGA Tour regular season as we're heading into the playoffs here. As always, I'm Jack Bushman, joined by Ross Baran. Our special guest joining us is none other than Scratch Golf. Make sure to go and give him a follow on X at the Scratch or at Scratch Golf Show, on YouTube at the Scratch Golf Show. We're very excited to finally have this episode coming out to you, and seems like perfect timing because there's a lot going on to discuss this week. But before we get into that, Scratch, just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on this Monday afternoon. How are you doing? And for those who maybe aren't familiar with you, I'm sure we got plenty in our audience that are, but for those who haven't seen you before, let us know where they can find you on X and what kind of YouTube content that you do. I know you made a post about it today in terms of creating some content. You've had some cool guests. So give us the rundown about what you got going on with the Scratch Golf Show, brother.
Yeah, man, absolutely, Jack. Thanks for having me, Ross. Thanks for having me, fellas. Looking forward to it. Monday evening, love talking golf. But yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Marco, aka the Scratch Golf Show. You can find me on Twitter at Scratch Golf Show. Everything else is at the Scratch Golf Show. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Where else? I run out of social media. I keep trying to grow more apps on my phone, and it makes my wife upset because my ADHD is too much. But I really appreciate you guys having me. Looking forward to talking golf tonight. As far as content going, yeah, man, I do like a podcast channel, YouTube, Spotify, whatever you want to call it, brand. I don't really know where I want to take it. I started it the week of the Masters. I've been doing it for whatever 4 or 5 months now. I've grown a decent amount, and I love doing it. So we do the podcast, random interviews. We've had some really cool guests: Wesley Bryan, Willie Wilcox, Monday Q Info, Ryan French. We had Ross on our live show. And then we got some cool stuff coming from YouTube, doing some playing stuff. So I'm a scratch golfer, or a scratch golfer. I played like a zero handicap. Filmed our first match last night. Going to post that in a couple weeks. We've got a ton of caddy content coming here after the season. We've got about 10 or 12 caddies lined up for interviews, and then we're going to see where that takes us. So that's kind of my plans through the fall, and then we're going to come back and hopefully join you guys' show in a future episode also. So thanks for having me. Looking forward to breaking down the Wyndham and take the blow torch to Matt Kuchar like we were talking about.
Yeah, we'll get there in just a second, but hell yeah, dude. Definitely be sure to go check out Marco and the Scratch Golf Show if you haven't, because man, sounds like he's got some excellent stuff planned coming up here in the near future. But getting into the Wyndham Championship, as we talked about, a chaotic finish. Ross, I'm going to turn this over to you first because I don't know if anyone has as much feelings about what went down in those final 4 or 5 holes as you do. And as I told you yesterday and before getting on here, I actually made the mistake of turning it off because after Max Greyserman spun that wedge back on the 13th and he goes and holes out for the deuce, I mean, the way that he was cruising on the front nine, it just felt like he was so in control over his golf ball for the entire day, which was the most impressive thing about it because up until that point, right, like the amount of holes that these guys had played, they finished round 2, round 3, and round 4 all in the same day. I don't think there's been a single event like that, at least since I have been watching the PGA Tour day in and day out, or at least one that I can remember. But he seemed to be handling the marathon rather well and, was coming off that second place finish at the 3M Open in which he went, guns a-blazing in the final round at TP Twin Cities to throw his hat into the mix. I was like, man, it just really felt like it was Max Greyserman's day after he made that hole out eagle. And it's just like, well, when you're on, you're on. And I never envisioned that, he was going to go on to make an 8 at the par 4 14th and then go on to 4-putt from 30 feet after, seemed like he righted the ship, made that bounce back birdie. It was something that I don't think anyone foresaw, but kind of take us through your emotions through it all and kind of how you're feeling now as we're just about 24 hours removed from that unfortunate finish for you, brother.
So we're 24 hours removed, and I think it hurts even more.
I've been there. I've been there.
To be completely honest. And you know what hurts is I'll be honest, I had a nice $5 ticket on Max Greyserman at 75-1, looking at a nice little $400 payday coming in, and they were offering me, a decent cash out, right? There's 4 to play. He's got a 5-shot lead. There's a nice little cash out offer, which obviously is like 20 times my money I had already put in. And literally in a single hole, they were like, well, we'll give you $5 if you want to just break even.
The ultimate you from the sports book.
it happened so fast. Literally, it's just like that meme from The Office. Like, it happened so fast that just I logged in and looked, and it's like they were offering me like $200 to just hedge it, be done now. And literally, like 10 seconds later, it's like, oh well, we'll offer you your original. You can have your money back if you want, just the 5. And I was just like, what the fuck? And as far as I'm concerned, the way I'm feeling about this is Max Greyserman owes me $400. He owes me $400 for believing in him 2 consecutive weeks, riding this train. You know what? He's probably one of the hottest players going into the FedEx Cup. I think out of spite, I'm gonna leave him off and be like, you ain't fucking winning this week, buddy, because I said so.
He's got some good odds. I'm not going to bury the lead. I know we'll get to there later on in the day, but
I might be. I saw his odds on scrolling FanDuel earlier. I might hammer him this week, but I don't want to jump far ahead.
Yeah, dude, I just can't believe. I know he's still very young, and I believe it was only his 23rd PGA Tour start, right? So it's a fresh face. Never had really been in this type of situation. Yeah, he did come runner-up the week prior, but it was kind of from the back, whereas opposed this time, it was his thing to lose, really. But I never felt like, and I mean, I don't even think after that bounce back birdie at the par 5 15th that anyone envisioned, he goes and hits the green with his approach shot, at the par 3. And it's like, okay, things seem to be settled here. He was also leading the field in strokes gained putting up until that point. And to go and miss those short putts late, man, I really couldn't put my mind around it. And it just had to be all of a sudden the situation just got too big for him. I don't really know what ended up happening because for 69 of the 72 holes, the guy was absolutely phenomenal. But I want to say this about Max Greyserman as well. I give him a lot of props for sticking around and doing that interview after. I don't know if either of you were able to catch that, but just being so gracious in a moment of defeat like that. And Scratch, it wasn't really anything that he said that was too notable, right? Like there weren't going to be any like headlines from that interview that you took from, but just for him to, as a young guy being in that situation, he didn't have to go and do that interview. And I'm not going to go and throw it down on Rory when he didn't do that at the U.S. Open because we have seen Rory do that numerous times in the past. But I just thought it was more of a great reminder and an example that, it's okay to come up short and talk about it. It kind of honestly, I think, is going to resonate with a lot of fans better and give that appreciation. And maybe even, I know it was a tough day for Max Greyserman, but I'm sure it's something that he's going to absolutely learn from. We know the talent is there, and I think he's going to gain some fans by doing it, by being genuine and being open in that moment. And he said, he knows that he was capable of doing it, and just golf is hard at some points in time. And, this crazy game can just spiral out of control in those moments. But I thought it was just a cool moment to see him open up and kind of show that these things can happen to the best in the world at any given time. And that's just the crazy game that we have. But Max Greyserman, man, tough for him.
I've got a couple of Max takes. First of all,
let's hear
it. Psycho scorecard. I mean, the guy shot 1 under, 2 eagles, I'm pretty sure. I love Ryan Monday Q, and he always puts out a tweet of I shot even or whatever when the guy had an 8 and 10 birdies or whatever. But an all-time Skeet scorecard. I saw a meme of the scorecard, and it was like the quote tweet, and it was like the Speeds experience. Shout out W, who joined us on the Takes One on Tuesdays. But yeah, and then the second thing was like when there's two things for Max. One, car path OB, like what are you gonna do there? Like I feel like he didn't hit that bad of a shot there in 14. I didn't watch a ton. I watched the highlights, but him laying up into that cross bunker, like I don't know. I saw the no laying up guys talking about like what the hell are you doing? Like that is just like I mean that's the one thing you cannot do there from that rough. It's like that just completely turns that hole from a 6 right to the quad. I mean essentially that shot. And so I thought he got unfair off the tee with we play golf right. It hits the car path. You can't really judge it, but laying up in that cross bunker was unexcusable. Like he's a decade guy too, I'm pretty sure. And if you guys aren't familiar with Decade, Scott Fawcett, it's a course management system. But I mean, if you're a Decade guy, that's like a big no-no. So I'd like to know what was caddy, what that decision, or if he just chunked it, like what happened there. But like I said, all-time psycho scorecard. One under with an 8 and a 2.
Always love to see a good psycho scorecard out there. A case of the Golf Monday Q info always tweets those out. Shane Bacon. I always enjoy a good psycho scorecard. But Max actually, he did elaborate about that in the interview, and it seemed like that was really the one that he knows that cost him. And it wasn't even really the drive, and he said so. He was like, I felt like I hit a bad drive. I didn't feel like it deserved to go out of bounds, but just got a bad break there. But he said the real mistake was missing the fairway again after re-teeing. And then he said he was like, I think he didn't exactly elaborate. He said he was caught in between, and I'm assuming he was probably talking about being caught in between clubs. But to leave it in that bunker short, he said he was like, I probably easily should have made 6 at the very worst. Should have made 7 there. And he said, I could have made that score pretty easily. So just the compounding of issues is what really led to this downfall, right? And after, even on the 16th, missing that first 3-footer, he goes and misses it again, right? It was those compounding issues that really led to this thing falling out of control, I think.
Absolutely.
We haven't talked about Aaron Rai, though, yet, and he does absolutely deserve credit for this victory. I feel, though, like this was the way it was going to happen for Aaron Rai. I will give him credit, though. He did still shoot 6 under 64 in that final round, right? Like, he still went out there and he did it. There were a lot of putts that he missed, though, that I think was kind of getting people a little bit on fire. They're watching Max Greyserman go and make all these birdies until he didn't, until the 14th happened. But up until that point, everyone who was on Aaron Rai was like losing their minds that he wasn't racking up these birdies, when in hindsight, you go and look back at his scorecard, and there weren't any blemishes there in the final round. And that was really the difference. Yeah, he didn't, have the hole out eagle that Max Greyserman did. He didn't go on this long, crazy birdie streak or anything, but he stayed solid through and through throughout the course of the day. And then I don't know if he was entirely sure of what the situation was at 18, but to step up and hit that shot regardless, and to make that birdie on the closing hole, to leave no doubt, Aaron Rai has been playing phenomenal golf, not only just this summer, but we have seen his name pop up for the last couple of years on the PGA Tour, and talked about a lot for what he had done on the DP World Tour before really coming over here. Finally is able to break through, but I just thought like this was the way that it was going to happen for Aaron Rai, right? Like he wasn't going to, I didn't really see him being the type of guy that was going to grab the lead and hold on to it in the final round. It was just kind of, he stays steady, and everyone else kind of gagged it down the stretch while he stayed solid.
Yeah. And Ross, I know before I got, it reminds me of Camp Davis's when ironically enough, at the Rocket Mortgage, my hometown event, where Aaron Rai was in contention. He's been playing well all summer, but it's guys like that where they're not really going to go out and grab it. They're just almost kind of, they play well enough to win, and it just kind of falls into their lap. Similar to how Cam Davis, when he won the Rocket, just kind of fell into his lap. Feels like that's how Aaron Rai is going to get his win. Yeah. But hey, whatever. I'm not an Aaron Rai guy. Nothing against him. He uses iron covers. That's my thing. I can't do it.
I know, and I personally had never been there for like the Aaron Rai betting market, and I really gave him a long look this past week. The guy had been playing better, but I've never been aboard this ship. Like there were some underlying statistics of like him on Bermuda greens. I'm like, it's just enough for me to stay off. But I know him cashing made a lot of people happy who've been backing him throughout the course of the years. But I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm not necessarily the biggest Aaron Rye fan, but what's funny is Cam Davis, after that win in Detroit, just kind of going back to that, when he talked with the media, he was like, yeah, I thought I had lost this golf tournament, because I think he only shot 2 under in that final round, and it was a little bit of a pillow fight down the stretch, kind of like it was at Sedgefield. But Ross, kind of give me your thoughts on Aaron Rye finally breaking through for a win.
I mean, it played out exactly like we thought it would, where Aaron Rye plays very consistent, very good golf and puts himself in contention. But I've never gotten the vibe that he's a closer type player where he's going to go and get it. Like, is he going to put up a consistent round and finish somewhere in the top 5? Yes, absolutely. And this was just one of those situations. Although I do give him credit for on the 18th, in that moment, realizing, looking at the scoreboard, that at that point, Max had bogeyed the previous hole. And then him having that realization moment, like, oh, I'm winning. The fact that he absolutely stuck that iron in there for that birdie putt, where that was like his first true test moment of like, oh, I can win this right now. And in the fading daylight, everything, like, he fucking hit the best shot you need to hit that tour winners hit. And the first time he was asked to step up and actually do it on a stage like this, he did it. He knocked it down. He got out of there. So I do give him credit for having the stones in that moment to realize it. And guess what? You hit the 1 in a million shot you need to hit to get out of there with the W.
And speaking of the fading daylight, quite a scene went down as the daylight was fading on the 72nd hole of the tournament. I was already pretty fed up with Matt Kuchar at this point in the tournament, fellas, because I had a good 90-1 ticket on Kuch. Ross, a couple of weeks ago, wrote a great article about Kuchar and the streak that you had never heard of, 17 consecutive years making the FedEx Cup Playoffs, needed a win in order to get in, had been playing pretty decent, came close to coming through with the victory at the 3M Open a few weeks ago. So I'm like, yeah, I'll throw a nice I think it was $8 on Matt Kuchar, 90-1 would have been a nice payout for the weekend. And boy, through 36 holes, even through like 45 holes, the guy was absolutely cruising. I think he got it out to 15 under at one point, was 3 under on his third round, and then everything just went sour for the guy. Couldn't make a putt to save his life. Kind of fell out of contention based on Greyserman going nuclear and just wasn't able to make enough birdies on a golf course that yields a ton of them typically. And then the cherry on top is good old Matt Kuchar. Before even, let's not forget here, fellas, before even making that decision to pick up and call it for the day, goes and tees off into Aaron Rye, who's trying to win a golf tournament. Matt Kuchar goes and tees off into him. Fortunately, Kuchar had basically not given a fuck at that point any longer and had duck hooked that bad boy left. Imagine what a scene that could have been, though, if that thing had like rolled up to the players as they're trying to hit their approach and to the final hole of a golf tournament. It's like Matt Kuchar had no regard that this was the conclusion of a golf tournament that had already been dragged on to its absolute max. Goes and says, oh, you know, the horns have theoretically already sounded, right? Yeah, I'm going to go and pick up my golf ball. See you, folks. I'm done for the day. And by the way, everyone's got to come back tomorrow. And anyone who has a ticket that they want cashed on this fine Sunday night, no. You're going to have to wait until Monday because I'm bringing this thing back to play half a golf hole. Scratch, give me your rundown on Matt Kuchar. I know you were saying you were ready to set him ablaze. Give me the full spiel on this guy.
First off, did anyone see this morning what happened with Matt Kuchar?
I did see what happened. Shout out to Kevin Price.
Fucking TIO this morning from a fucking scoreboard. Yep. Not only do you have the fucking nerve to extend the golf tournament another day after, like you said, Jack, it's gone on its absolute max. No golf Thursday, 18 Friday. They completed the second round Sunday morning, which is insane to think about that they got 72 holes in this week. But like, the nerve to take fucking TIO, make par, lock up his his extra 80 grand, because in my opinion, he did it for the money. Oh, Kuchin money, right? The famous caddy story way back in the day for Mexico. But the nerve, and I saw somebody, I forget who, I want to give the gentleman proper credit, but Brian, Monday Q retweeted him, who was doing the Lord's work, covering the tournament this morning, I heard some people clapping for him. I retweeted it. I would have filled those bleachers with hecklers and sold tomatoes and made an extra couple grand and just thrown tomatoes at Matt Kuchar when he's putting on 18 this morning. I mean, the nerve. I mean, do we expect it? Like, if there's one guy to pick who would have done this, it's got to be Matt Kuchar. Like, he's got to be like plus 200 to have this type of situation. Like, he's such a dick. Like, we know it. Like, he doesn't even hide it. And then I don't know if you saw, like, doing some PR control this morning. I think I saw some golf tournament or some golf outlet got him an interview. He's like, I was trying to be the bigger person and set an example for Max. I'm like, I don't think Max finished. So, like, if you really want to set an example, just kind of throwing Max under the bus without kind of throwing him under the bus. And it's like, I did it for him because one day he might have an important shot to hit. It's like, dude, you're a loser, man. Like, go away, go retire, go play the Champions Tour, go make your money out there, and just go away. Your streak's over. You have no more relevance to the PGA Tour. Goodbye. I'd be perfectly okay never seeing Matt Kuchar play a tournament again. Goodbye. See you later. Take your 17 years in the FedEx Cup and get the hell off my TV screen. Adios, buddy.
My reply to that would be, and I feel the same way, this was an absolute scene for no reason caused by Matt Kuchar, and the fact that, or the effort that he would go to say that he was doing this for Max Greyserman. I promise you, Matt Kuchar did this for dinero, boys, and made himself a little extra change. I will give him that. I think, he saved himself like 60, 70 grand by making this decision. Never doubt what Matt Kuchar will do for money. I think this is the ultimate takeaway. However, I would argue, I think the PGA Tour needs a little bit of a villain. I don't think Matt Kuchar is capable of playing good enough golf at this day and age to probably be relevant enough, but I miss having guys that we would kind of group shit on. And it just makes things a little bit more enticing, in my opinion. But it would have been an awesome scene, Scratch. If we could have got some people out there instead of yelling Cooch, a whole lot of boos out there. I'm sure there were some members running the tournament, some fine people, some fine volunteers who had to come back on Monday morning that probably weren't too happy with Mr. Matt Kuchar in that decision. Ross, give me your thoughts on the matter.
My thoughts are entwined in a single 2 posts, and it was the PGA Tour communications. 8 a.m.
So
the fourth round has begun play. 8:06. The fourth round has concluded with Matt Kuchar's par.
That was great. That was a great post. The whole 8 minutes for Matt Kuchar. I can't believe people actually clap for that guy.
No, I can't believe it. It was wild.
I couldn't believe it just for the fact that, like, they got smoked by a fucking hurricane, everything. These crews have been working night and day to get this course playable, and you drag them back to play 6 more minutes.
Yeah, literally. Haven't these people gone through enough? It's been a miracle that we even got this thing finished before Monday, and you have to make it finish on Monday.
Shout out to the agronomy crew at Sedgefield. I mean, 100%. What work they did to make the course playable this week is unreal. And, of course, Cooch thinks about himself. Clearly, I mean, guy couldn't be more selfish.
The money man, Matt Kuchar. Yeah, shout out to the grounds crew at Sedgefield because that place was absolutely underwater on Thursday. I really didn't even think they were going to be able to play on Friday. Like, I thought that was going to be far-fetched. I really anticipated more people than Matt Kuchar to be finishing on Monday, basically, when I was, thinking that this thing Wednesday, when we were seeing the forecast, 100% rain, 5 inches on Thursday. We're hearing all the rumblings of what Tropical Storm Debbie had been doing. So, yeah, huge shout out to everyone over at Sedgefield who helped this thing get concluded for the most part by Sunday night. And yeah, another epic tournament, epic finish to the Wyndham Championship, I should say. And I thought it was funny because not only did we get like the ultimate low of the lows, we got to see like the bad guy in this tournament, right? We got Matt Kuchar at the bottom. We also got the best guy in Billy Horschel. What a good guy Billy Ho is. And me and Ross love to give our shout outs to Billy Horschel when we can. And I think Ross and I both in the same manner were not originally Billy Horschel fans. If I remember correctly, Ross, I believe we talked about this. Not the biggest Billy Horschel fans when we first got into golf, but he has definitely won us over throughout the years. And just watching him be a good guy, accompanying Aaron Rye, like giving him motivation, like telling him, like, great tee shot. And then to see him go and embrace Aaron's caddy after the round and talk about, how well-deserved this is for everyone. I just love to see, I could eat up all the Billy Horschel good guy content out there. He's really won me over throughout the years, fellas. I can't lie.
Yeah, Billy Ho. I mean, he's been playing well. I actually really liked him last week. I didn't give out any picks. I've been kind of taking these on, saving my gambling for football season, ready for the lines. Yeah, I really liked him this week. He's played well here in the past. But yeah, ever since the Open, I don't know. I feel like I go back and forth. I have a love-hate with Billy Ho. I was never a Billy Ho guy when he first came out. Like you said, I still remember him like on 13 at Augusta one year, like going absolutely insane. And but yeah, he's really grown on me, like you said, Jack, the last few months. Good for him.
Yeah, and he has been playing some good golf coming into this week. Another tournament that features Bermuda greens. Billy Horschel, always interesting on Bermuda greens. Ross, this one is for you in particular. It wasn't the most classic example of this guy, but it was another one where Cam Young was there through 36 holes. There's kind of some jabronis around him. And then he makes a lot of bogeys and falters out of the tournament, man. Well, what are we thinking here about Cam Young?
Just, it's the same shit, different day, man. I have been like one of the biggest supporters that Cam Young is easily one of the most talented golfers on the tour. Cam Young can't get it out of his own goddamn head and figure it out. Every single week he does this to himself, where he just plays the mind games, and all of a sudden, all that talent is just gone, useless, worthless, can't make a fucking 4-foot putt to save his goddamn life. It is what it is. Like, you want to say scam? Yes, I'm gonna go scam Young. That all the talent in the world is there, and you just can't put it together because your own fucking head brings you down.
Yeah, I don't know if I've gone this far to say it before, and I don't know the guy personally or anything. I haven't talked with him multiple times, but I have followed him on 2 different occasions at 2 different golf courses. And one time, one of them, he did break his driver, and the other time I followed him, he very well could have broken his driver the way that he smashed it against the ground. And hot take, I think Cam Young, like, even though I think the perception about him is that he's quiet and like he doesn't really have much of a demeanor. I feel like he has one of the worst attitudes that's not talked about. And again, I hate to like make a statement about that when I don't know a guy personally, but just from what he's able to do and his ability, and even just like that one particular loan at the Rocket Mortgage a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month ago at this point in time, right? Like, that was a pillow fight down the stretch. No one really went out and won that bad boy. As I alluded to earlier, Cam Davis was still shocked when I think he shot -2 or -3 in the final round. And, on that golf course, that usually isn't going to do it on Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, Cam Young was still firmly in the mix at that point in time. And he goes and breaks his driver on the back 9 of a golf tournament. And it's just, I feel like he's got either a terrible case of the golf sads or almost in like a what happened to Max Greyserman type of situation this weekend, but it always happens to him. Like, he makes one mistake, it feels like he's not able to let it go. Like, he's not able to mentally get past that block. And I think that's the only way I can explain the way that this guy his talent hasn't come through yet throughout a 72-hole tournament. And we have seen it, but it's just not able to put it together for 4 consecutive days. It's rather mind-melting.
Yeah, I don't. This felt eerily similar to Rocket Mortgage. Jack, I wish we'd have connected before then, because I know Ross had mentioned that we could have linked up when you were in town for the Rocket. But yeah, I mean, I will echo pretty much everything you said. I said after the Rocket. We did it on the Takesman. I did it on my show. I was in this here shirt when I interviewed Wesley Bryan at the Rocket. But like, what the fuck are you doing breaking your driver when you're 1 back? Like that, like when he broke it, not to go back to the Rocket Mortgage, but he broke it on 14. That he could have gone driver 417, went 3 with 3 with 3 putted, and that was the theme of this week, right? I mean, the guy cannot putt. He reminds me, I mean, it's funny because him and Will Zalatoris were both Wake Forest guys, both flushers, both can't putt. I mean, it's ridiculous. And honestly, you can throw Cam Young in the Matt Kuchar basket. Goodbye. I'm done hearing about how good this guy is. Like, how many times is he going to go to these lower level or mid-tier PGA Tour events when, if he's as good as we think he is, like at the Rocket, like you said, Jack, that was his tournament to win. Going into Sunday, it was either him or Akshay. You got guys like Aaron Rai, you got guys like Cam Davis, like No offense to those guys. Yeah, they won the PGA Tour, but they're not killers. They're guys who aren't going to go get it. And if this guy is as good as you think he is, he needs to go out and win these tournaments, right? I mean, I know he had a bunch of second places a lot, but that was 2 years ago at this point. He lost in the match play and in the finals to Sam Burns or whatever that was. Like the guy just isn't it. He's kind of like I don't know, like the rookie in the NFL who is really good by his junior season. I'm done with him. Like the guy can't putt. He's brutal, man, and like he flushes it. And Jack, I'm sure you saw him at the Rocket Mortgage. I mean, he flushes it. The ball sounds different coming off his club face. And yeah, I agree with you. The attitude, the driver breaking, like he just seems so unpleasant to be around on the golf course. I'm done with Cam Young. Goodbye, Scam.
Yeah, and there have even been like some interviews where just like kind of the comments he's made, I'm like, does this guy like, is he happy? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes it just feels like, as you alluded to, like, doesn't seem like maybe he's the most pleasant guy to be around in particular. But yeah, dude, watching him hit a tee shot, I mean, there's no denying the noise that he makes. There was even a moment where just being in a crowd around the tee box, and after he hits a ball, just the amount of people that are like, like what he's able to do, there are very few humans who are able to replicate that same thing. But yeah, just for whatever reason, and that is kind of funny that you've mentioned, like him and Will Zalatoris, both different level ball strikers that have come out of Wake Forest, and that part of their game has translated immediately over to the PGA Tour, and they have really proven themselves as some of the best in those categories. But because of kind of a lacking short game, I know Will Zalatoris has broken through, but that's kind of been the part that's really prevented him from breaking through more. And I think the same is kind of to be said about Cam Young. Could we see Cam Young with a broomstick sometime soon, fellas? You think that's in the picture?
I mean, anything is probably better than what we're fucking working with right now, man.
I mean, that's what I've been saying. Who else was I? Johnny Vegas, when I was talking with funny enough, with Joey Ricotta, who, by the way, for those tuning in, hit an outright for the second consecutive tournament that he's bet on. He was a part of the Aaron Rye ticket this past week. Like, I'm surprised with how many guys have switched to the broomstick and have, like, at least found some sort, like Akshay, for sure. He's really resonated. He's put way better than he ever has throughout his life. And I know he's still very young in his career, but we saw that work wonders with him. We saw it happen with Lucas Glover, who literally had the yips and couldn't make like a 4-footer for like years. It led to him winning back-to-back. I don't know. I just feel like, and this was even a conversation, Ross, that we had about Scotty Scheffler before Rory McIlroy gave him the fucking golden ticket and told him to go and use a mallet putter. But I'm just surprised we don't see more guys who just flat out stink at putting, not tinkering as much as I think they would. You know what I mean? Like for Cam Young, this guy's hemorrhaging strokes basically every goddamn week on the greens, right? Like if you ask this guy to gain one stroke putting, he's probably going to finish inside the top 5 because that's how good the rest of his game is. I don't know. It's just interesting to me, especially when it feels like it burst through a little bit last year, but we haven't seen it as much over the course of this season. If that feels correct.
If I would have told you after the 2022 U.S. Open, or let's say the 2022 British Open, that would have been St. Andrews, right?
Yeah.
That Bobby McIntyre would have more wins in the next 2 years than Will Zalatoris and Cam Young combined. Would you believe me?
That's fucking mind-melting.
I mean, they've got one between them. Between the two of them, they've got one. It's insane.
Aaron Rye has as many wins as those guys combined.
No, that's wild, man. It's crazy. I don't get it. The broomstick is interesting. You've seen guys like Akshay and Lucas Glover, obviously. I mean, he still had a good season. I think he was like 76 in the FedEx Cup, which, you know, in the old playoffs would be well inside. But the broomstick's interesting from somebody who's had the yips. I'm shocked, Jack, like you said, that guys aren't more tinkering with it. It's the broomstick, the kind of arm lock, whatever. I mean, you can use basically anything. A shovel. I mean, anything's better than Cam Young. Whatever he's doing right now.
Bro, I mean, people forget Bryson was putting through his legs at one point in time, right? Like, and I know Bryson pisses people off for a lot of different reasons, even though it seems like he's won a lot of people over in the last year. But one thing that I feel like not enough people give him credit for is that he will do whatever the fuck it takes to be good. And I feel like not everyone is willing to do that. You know what I mean? And like, that's the ultimate thing of what Bryson wants to do is just get better. And he'll try whatever, literally whatever. So just thought that was interesting. I don't know if you guys had any more takes that you wanted to get to about the Wyndham Championship before we move on, but we do got the FedEx Cup playoffs kicking up this week, fellas. I think it's it's been a time of the year that has treated me well in the betting boards, so I'm hoping, going to keep my fingers crossed that translates over. Before we dive into this week's FedEx St. Jude Championship and get into the odds boards and some of the players that we do like, I do want to propose a question to you all, since we are now down to the final 3 events of the season, which is pretty crazy. It feels like a lot has happened, but it has gone by in a blur. I don't really know how to properly explain it other than that, but Scottie Scheffler, of course, 6 victories and the gold medal. That was his most recent start. He is going to be teeing it up this week, has a sizable lead in the FedEx Cup playoffs. However, that has been a story we've said before. Not quite this gap that Scottie's cemented himself with entering this week, but we have seen Scottie chase down in the last 2 years. Scratch, I'll ask you first. Do you think we see Scottie take home the FedEx Cup for the first time this year? And if not, who's the one taking it from him?
I do not. I don't. I think this may be a popular take here in a couple weeks, but I think Xander gets it done. Sole reason being Xander's the East Lake killer. Xander's probably going to be, I imagine, within the closest realm of Scottie. Whether I don't know whether he's second, third, fourth. With the tiered start scoring system that they have at East Lake. Xander, I mean, you saw last year. I think him and Hovland were the net or whatever the gross winners of the event. I don't think he shot over par there in like 5 years. It's insane how well he plays that golf course. So as much as I love Scottie, he blew that 6-shot lead to Rory that one year. I don't know if he'll blow it, but I just think Xander's going to win at East Lake. And by that, I mean, with how stupid the scoring system set up for playoffs, Scottie should clearly win the FedEx Cup. But with the system the way it is, I think Xander takes it down this year.
Oh, Scottie, congratulations. You have 6 wins, the most dominant season that we've seen in decades. You get a 2-stroke lead at East Lake. Good luck winning the FedEx Cup, buddy.
Honestly, I don't feel that bad for him. He's still going to make like $35 million this year. So
my
God. Does he really need the $25 million? Let's be real.
He's still going to be player of the year, man. Yeah. Like, I feel like it has to go to him. But Ross, obviously, you've been riding high on the Xander Schauffele train. Do you think Xander's going to chase down Scottie at East Lake?
I think Xander is going to chase Scottie down at East Lake, and I think it's going to be something that leads back to what our friend Tweeth Mitchell said last week. Scottie always does this come from behind boogeyman chase thing. Scottie doesn't typically do well when he starts out front and people come and chase him. He likes to be the boogeyman and come and get it. I think this is going to kind of be a reverse of fortune where it's going to be Xander coming, getting him. And I think that's one of the roles that Xander embraces, that I got to go get it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you bring up, and that will be an opportunity. Look, Tweet said, like, obviously he's been impressed with what Scottie has done. Who hasn't? But he would like to see him go and get one of those dominant, like, touchdown victories, not being the guy who comes from behind on Sunday. And even he admitted that's a little bit of nitpicking, and that's the level we have now reached with Scottie Scheffler. But this is going to be his opportunity to have that type of performance. And look, you can kind of poke fun at how great a season Scheffler has had, and that's only going to get him 2 strokes at East Lake. Scottie Scheffler with 2 strokes. I mean, I think everyone's going to feel good about his chances when he has that advantage, considering he's done all right without having those 2 strokes in his pocket to start off a tournament so far this year. But as you alluded to, Ross, it hasn't gone particularly well for Scottie in the driver's seat, particularly at that golf course, right? And Rory going and ripping the FedEx Cup away from him in 2022, which even Rory referenced felt a little bit wrong given the type of year that Scottie had. But it's the world we live in with this wonky tour championship style that the PGA Tour has gone with, that I don't really think quite resonates with everyone. Like, I just don't really know what they're doing. And at the final tournament of the year, it's like they kind of got 2 of its separate leaderboards going on because there's one aggregate, right? And like, it's just a little bit wonky. And I think it makes it a little unnecessary in terms of, and also it's robbing Scottie Scheffler of the type of season he had. Let him behold, like, yeah, he doesn't need the money as you referenced, but I think that's like kind of clear. If someone else besides Scottie Scheffler wins the FedEx Cup, it feels like you kind of have a problem with the system. And I feel like, yeah, you want to give the players those opportunities, but like, if Scottie doesn't win this thing, it's going to be what Rory said in 2022, like times 7, unless it's like Xander. Like Xander, he could deserve it, right? Like, but anyone else, I feel like it isn't going to be a true champion, if you know what I mean. Does that feel right?
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's so hard because like they want the playoffs to matter, right? Like these are supposed to be like the playoff, right? In any playoff, right? Whether Jack, I mean, I see you're a Blackhawks fan, right? I'm assuming you're a Cubs guy, Bears, whatever. Like you want the playoffs to matter, no matter whatever the sport is. They want it to matter. They moved it back to not compete with the NFL on Sundays for the playoffs, but the scoring just doesn't make sense. Like props to them. Like I will give them credit. Like they did go away from and they've tried tweaking the system, but it just seems like there's too many people who don't know how to actually make it entertaining. But I'll give them credit for trying because most people won't even try, and we've kind of knocked. That's been a knock on the PGA Tour. They're not adapting, so they're at least trying. But I just think that the playoffs, like, they want guys to be able to play their way up into the playoffs, right, and make these events matter. But at the same time, you want to, like, how does Scotty not win the Super Bowl, right? He's like the Chiefs or whatever. Like, it's just so
Yeah.
it's a hard balance. But I am excited for next week in Denver for a new course next week, which will be fun. But I don't want to jump ahead for the BMW. See that before we jump to East Lake again.
8,100 yards should be quite interesting next week in Colorado, the longest course ever featured on the PGA Tour. Ross, what are your kind of thoughts about the structure of the FedEx Cup playoffs that the PGA Tour runs with?
I feel like it's something that can still be worked on. I feel like there's a million different directions you could take the playoff. Even with a staggered system, you could even make it fun where, people get their bonuses and everything for how they finish making it into the playoffs, and then make it like a 3-week running tournament or some shit where the guy that wins week 1 or whatever moves on to week 2 and starts with like a 2-stroke lead and so on, and get it all the way to East Lake when it cuts down to 30 and be like, oh well, we're into the final round, so and so has a 4. You have, let's say, someone like Max Greysermans currently holds a 4-shot lead going into East Lake round 3.
I would like to see match play. I don't know about you guys. I think it would be sick if they cut it down to like top. I think 30 is too much to like go into a bracket like that. But if they cut it down to like the top 16 big dogs and went head to head, I think that would be awesome. And obviously there's no longer match play in the standard PGA Tour schedule, which I think is a little bit of a miss. I think it's definitely a miss. Like it's something that is a rarity in professional golf and is played at every level until you reach the PGA Tour. So I don't really understand stripping the fans who really seem to enjoy that style of golf, stripping the one opportunity that we get for it every single year, when I feel like the 16 guys who are going to be in it at the end of the year, most people are going to know, and you're going to have a pretty lump sum of the big stars right on the PGA Tour, atypically in that type of setting. I feel like building up a head-to-head match play would also be a great way to like resonate with the superstars to the fans, because it's not a big field. You get to see a lot of shot of those guys and the world's best, or the PGA Tour's best, I guess I should say, going head to head. Like I feel like that's just such a cool opportunity for the PGA Tour, me personally, that I would like to see, whether in the playoffs or at some stage in some event on the PGA Tour once again, because I really do miss it.
Yeah, I'm a big match play guy. I went to the last one in Austin that year in 2022. That course was really cool. I'm a big proponent of match play. It's my favorite format to play personally. Stroke play has been growing on me the more comfortable I am making, swinging under pressure. But match play is awesome, man. It's criminal that the PGA Tour doesn't have a match play event anymore. I love it. I wish they'd incorporate more of it. I know the guys love that type of tournament. I don't get why they went away from that event. That was one of my favorite of the year that wasn't a non-major. And it's absolutely fucking criminal that they had it. That, like I said, Austin Country Club was a really cool course. We were there on a bachelor party. The vibe is great. It's a really fun event. Whether they should incorporate it. I know Liv does it for their leagues. They were doing it for their individual team championship, but I wish the PGA Tour had a match play stuff. It would be great, and it's a great format. I know those guys, like I said, love playing it.
Yeah, Austin, bachelor party weekend and catching some match play. That must have been a time for you.
Oh, it was fun. It was one of my best friends. We had a great time. I don't know if he tuned in. He did retweet the stream, I'm pretty sure. So shout out Will if you're watching. I fist bumped EVR, Eric Van Rooyen, and his caddy.
Good guy.
Alex, yeah. I'm a big EVR guy. His caddy is quite the player too, Alex Goggert. It's like a +6, +7. I know they played together at Minnesota. He's agreed to come on the Scratch Golf Show for an interview, so that'll be fun. to come full circle after fist bumping those guys. But
Hell
don't
yeah.
want to take too much time on the match play conversation. I love it. I think it's criminal. They don't have
No.
it anymore.
I completely agree. And also a big Eric Van Rooyen guy. Funny enough, Scratch, when I was in Detroit, I had an Eric Van Rooyen ticket. So I was following him and Alex a lot at Detroit Golf Club, which, by the way, we're definitely going to have to link when I go back there next summer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely something I'll be looking forward to, and definitely going to go back if the PGA Tour lets me, of course. But definitely will be a good time. Always a fan of the Van Rooyens. Last question I have for you guys before we jump into a little bit of bets talk for this week's FedEx St. Jude Championship. Most memorable moment or moments from this regular season now that we've reached the playoffs? What's the one or the ones that stand out to you the most throughout the course of this regular season, fellas?
Scotty Scheffler in jail.
Scotty?
Gotta be. The question is, Scotty, whatever that Officer Gillis, did he rob him of another major? For me, I think it's Xander, man. Him getting number 1 and number 2. That Sunday 65 was special. So I think it's going to be Xander.
Yeah. Xander was definitely the year of Xander, I think, is what 2024 will probably be remembered for the most. I think people will remember Scotty's legendary run, but man, majors is always the big legacy talk years and years removed. And I feel like people are going to remember Xander rattling off too. Yeah, Scotty didn't win the Masters for a second time, but I don't know. That's kind of an interesting question of its own, right? I feel like Scotty's going to win Player of the Year, but I think 2024 in legacy retrospect might be remembered a little bit more for Xander. It'll be interesting to see how that winds up transpiring, but I think the Olympics actually, as the Olympics continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and everything that went down in that final round, that was one of my favorite and most memorable events of the entire year, as well as the final round at the U.S. Open. Bryson and Rory going head-to-head, two of the biggest stars in the game. That'll be something I definitely remember. And then I also do want to give a shout out to the Valero Texas Open, which I think produced one of the most electric finishes of the season when my boy Akshay, who I was on that week, I thought he was going to cruise to a nice wire-to-wire victory. Denny McCarthy went full nuclear on the back nine to go and force a playoff, and my heart was nearly beating through my chest as I was at TPC San Antonio, only for Akshay to go and pull it through in the playoffs. So that was definitely one of my favorite events throughout the course of the year. But been a fun regular season. Interested to see how things are going to shake out here in the playoffs. But let's go ahead, Ross.
Before we go ahead, Ross.
I was going to say, honestly, it's sad to discuss, but I think one of the biggest stories from the 2024 season is it's obviously the PGA Tour doesn't care because they took him off the FedEx Cup list this week. But I think it's the unfinished business, the Grayson Murray season, that how fucking phenomenal the year Grayson had going before the tragic end to it. Grayson played himself into the top 30. We were only 8 weeks into the season. He already had a win, had multiple top 10s, and then Grayson's just gone. I think that is an unwritten story, tragically, that would have had a spectacular finish if we had had the opportunity.
Yeah, man. Go ahead, Trash. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
A couple of things. Yeah, I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole, but that was the morning of my wedding. Was Grayson Murray. That was. We played golf that morning. We were getting ready as groomsmen, and that happened. That was brutal, man. But Jack, something you said, that is the Valero. That event holds a special place in my heart this year for a few reasons. One, that was the week I started the show. So the Scratch Golf show, I went on and talked about that very specific playoff, Akshay and Denny. Unfortunately, I was on the other side of the playoff.
Oh, no, so I'm sorry. Denny, I didn't mean to bring it up.
No, I'm a big Denny guy. So funny story, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I'm a big Denny guy. Denny, one, has agreed to come on the show. So I'm going to have him on in the fall, or at least his wife went to my college, and I was able to meet him a couple times way back in the day. So we still have a pretty good relationship with his wife, who follows my show, and we're going to get him on, and his caddies are agreed to come on. So I'm a big Denny guy. That was an awesome time for me. I had a Denny ticket that Sunday, so watching him go nuclear on the back nine, I've been like committed to following this guy for like 7 years. So like I was like locked in for him to get the first win, and then just for it to end the way it did, man, that was a really good tournament. And when you brought it up, that was another good memory for me this year, was that tournament in specific.
Yeah, Denny, man, it's got to come one of these days. I was hoping it was going to be last week. I was on him at the Wyndham.
Yeah, Yeah, he's the best putter in the world. He's got to at some point, right?
Absolutely. It's going to come one of these days for old Denny. Looking forward to watching when you have him and his
Yeah,
caddy on the show for sure. One of
fun,
the
man.
most liked guys on the PGA
Yeah,
Tour for sure.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Absolutely. A member of the Good Guys Club. But let's jump on in over to the betting board for this week's FedEx St. Jude Championship. Checking the odds checker grid. It's the first leg of the FedEx Cup Playoffs, as I mentioned earlier. And for the second consecutive year, fellas, the only the top 70 wind up qualifying for this field as opposed to the top 125 in years past. So things are a little bit shrink down. Some of the odds are a little bit jam-packed, but for the most part, all the notables have made it to this stage. I think the most notable player who probably isn't in outside of I guess Matt Kuchar isn't the most significant, but his streak comes to an end. First year that he's not making the playoffs. Ricky Fowler, who didn't even tee it up at Wyndham last week, just said, "You know what? Fuck it. This year wasn't for me. Not making these playoffs." He didn't wind up qualifying his way into the postseason. But most of the notables are here, of course. Scotty, Xander, Rory at the top. They're the three betting favorites this week. Also got Colin Morikawa and Ludwig Aberg at the top of the board as well. Colin at 12-1. Ludwig at 20, and then we got Patrick Cantlay at 22 and Tommy Fleetwood at 25. So a lot of guys entering this week with good form. Obviously, Xander's got the 2 majors. Scotty's got the 6 wins in the Olympics coming off the last time he teed it up. It feels like because of both those guys' success and Rory not winning a major, it's kind of downtrodden the year that he's had. And then I think undoubtedly Colin Morikawa is the best player on the PGA Tour without a win this season. So makes for an intriguing top of the betting board for sure this week. Ross, I'll turn it over to you first. You got anyone on the top of at the top of the betting board on your card here this week, or anyone that you're kind of thinking about at least at this point in time? No, we're still early on in the week, but let me know your thoughts here at the top.
I hit one player. The rest of my players, I'm going to hold the remainder of the week to see if I can get a little bit better odds as people beat the board around. But there is one player I locked in because I don't want it going any lower because otherwise it's going to be below my cutoff. He's got to fucking win at some point. He's been literally one of the top 5s all year. I do have Colin at 12.
Yeah, I got Colin at 14. There was a little extra boost at Bet Rivers. I got him up to 14-1. And Ross, we talk about bets every single week, so it's probably no surprise that I'm on Colin Morikawa here again this week. It feels like I've been riding him all throughout the summer, and even though the win hasn't come yet, and that's been rather frustrating, not seeing a return on any of these investments, there really haven't been any huge reasons for me to jump off. And now that we only got 3 tournaments left, I feel like if it's going to happen for Colin this year, it's got to be right here, right now. Obviously, time is running, but this feels like a really good spot for him. He has good track record on this course. Has played well with Zoysia grass fairways, which is a little bit of a rarity on the PGA Tour. And actually his last win at the Zozo Narashino Country Club over in Japan, interestingly enough, features Zoysia fairways. He struck the ball beautifully at the Olympics, but was 56th out of 60 in putting. And admittedly, that is a concern this week. But for the greater part of this season, he really has made strides in both that area and around the green. And if he went on to win this thing and I didn't have money on him, I'd feel like an absolute idiot. So, yeah, Colin Morikawa, 14-1 for me is the only bet I have right now under 25-1, and really the only one I'm looking at strongly. Scratch, what are you thinking about the top of this board here?
Yeah, it's funny. I think Jack, we've been in line a lot tonight, but that was the one name that jumped out with me as I was scrolling FanDuel earlier. I like my values. I like my bomb pops. I don't like laying anything more than 10, under 10-1. I really don't look at on that board unless it's Scotty, right? You just kind of take, plus 300 or whatever. But the one name that jumped out was Colin to me. Like you said, he's been striking it well all summer. Similar to Scotty, right? I think he goes as his putter goes. The ball striking is generally always there. He's not the longest, but he generally hits a lot of fairways with that spinny heel cut or whatever he wants to call it. He's the kind of guy that really only sees the ball move one direction. I think, like you mentioned, he's striking it well at the Olympics. I think having the week off will definitely help. And at some point, he's got to get it done. I don't think he's going to get it done in Denver. It doesn't seem like his kind of course. And East Lake is just too long for him. So why not this week? He's the one name that jumped out on the board at me at 12-1 is what you mentioned. I like him this week too.
All right, fellas. Looks like it's the Colin Morikawa week, baby. We got the
Let's
trio on it.
Team
We ride with Morikawa. It better be fucking this week for this guy because, yeah, I agree. I don't think next week is really going to play up his alley. Even, with the added altitude, it feels like someone much longer than he is probably going to take that bad boy, if I had to guess. I do want to ask you guys. I haven't bet him all year, and I really told myself I don't know if I'm ever going to. I'm okay with missing it. Tommy Fleetwood, 25-1. I do want to ask, coming off the second place at the Olympics, was one stroke short of the playoff last year with Patrick Cantlay and Lucas Glover, which fittingly is kind of the storyline of his entire PGA Tour career, right? Any interest in either of you guys at Tommy, or am I just a bonehead? And I haven't bet him all year, but, I don't know. I feel like he's playing better.
I did look at Tommy for a very good portion of time. I ultimately went another direction, but with a similar theme we'll end up discussing. I did not put Tommy, but I do not hate a Tommy play this week with the track record at this course and the vibes that we are working with right now.
I'm in line with Ross. I like his number. I think you're getting good value in that 25-1. If you're asking me what I'd rather bet Tommy at 25-1 or Rory at whatever 7-1, I'm taking Tommy every day. I don't know. It just seems like, is he ever going to get it done? Right? It seems like Colin, if this is the week, this is kind of the week. But I'm off him. I don't bet guys who don't win. I'm not going to continue to waste units on guys who have never won on the PGA Tour. I don't hate the number this week, and I don't hate his game at this golf course. So
yeah, that was kind of what it was for me too. I think it's a fair number in a board where there really aren't that many, and we're getting squeezed with only a little bit of a 70-player field. And like I said, I really I learned my lesson with Tommy last year. Last year was really the first year I got into betting Tommy. He had a couple of close calls. And the RBC Canadian Open last year was really one that scarred me. I don't think I've bet on him ever since he wasn't able to make a 4 on a 499-yard par 5, which, Scratch, I think I'd expect you to make a 4 on that hole most of the time, let alone Tommy fucking Fleetwood. But moving down the betting board here, getting to, we'll call it this 35 to 45-1 pocket. We got Hideki Matsuyama, 33-1, really solid performance his last time out at the Olympics. Tom Kim, 35-1. Russell Henley, who came T4 at the Open the last time we saw him, has had a really solid season at 35. Tony Finau's at 35. Victor Hovland at 35, crazy considering what he did to wrap up the FedEx Cup playoffs last year. Most folks envisioned him having a wildly different 2024 campaign than he's had. He's 35-1 in this field. And then we got Corey Connors at 40, Aaron Rai at 45, along with Justin Thomas, Sahith Theegala, and Sung Jae Im. Ross, I'm guessing you probably got a name from this part of the betting board. Am I right?
I actually have two. My first one is I did go with an Olympic medalist, but I went with bronze. I do have Hideki Matsuyama on the card this week.
And again, that feels like a rather fair number for Hideki considering his upside, especially with the week he had.
Same way, Hideki. I loved his number. Another name that jumped out at me. He's played well at this course in the past. I think the year that Abe Ancer won, the year that Bryson and Harris English, I think, came backwards by like a zillion strokes. It's a ball striker's course. Playing well this year, getting a good number on him. Why not? 33-1. Let's ride.
Ross, who else you got in this range?
We've mentioned him all fucking year, been waiting week by week for him to break through. And Scratch hit it on the head. It's a ball striker's course. I'm going to go one last ride and hope he finally comes through for me. I do have Corey Connors again.
And almost like a mini version of Colin Morikawa, or maybe just not as hyped in terms of the changes that he's made in his short game. Corey Connors has really been going through the same thing here these last couple of months, and we've always known Corey Connors has that ability to strike the golf ball tee to green, or at least off the tee, and with his approach shots, one of the better players on the PGA Tour, but it really feels like he's rounded out his game here, and I've seen a lot of people backing Corey Connors, had a good finish here last year, as you referenced, so don't hate it whatsoever. Ball striker's paradise.
Yeah, I had JT in this range too. Of course, he's one on. I think you're getting him at a decent number. Anytime you can get JT at the same number, I think you're close to Aaron Rai. Probably maybe bet JT. Shout out to my girl ES Golf Bets on X. I saw her click on JT with the puke emoji, but he's not somebody I would play, but a name I think you're getting a good number on at 45-1. Like I said, of course he's won in the past, so name to look at in that area.
Definitely shout out Elise, who's been on a little bit of a heater here this summer.
Yeah, she's been on a big heater this summer. Good for her.
Absolutely. Justin Thomas, interesting. I've thought about it, and I don't think he's playing as bad as this narrative that's been around him has been. I believe, Ross, both of us were on him at the Scottish Open when he got off to that excellent start and then kind of puked it away from that point on. 45-1 though for him on this course. And as we mentioned, like a ball striker's paradise, each of the last 3 winners here has gained over 7 strokes with their approach shots en route to victory. Like Justin Thomas, regardless of where he's been the last 2 years, we know he has that upside with his irons. And 45-1 feels like a good price for him on this golf course for sure.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I'm going to get there personally because I've had a little bit of a soft spot for Sung Jae Im these last few weeks. I always like Sung Jae Im on golf course. Him and Tom Kim, man, like they got the same profile. I like them on courses shorter than 7,300 yards, even though this is a par 70. The par 3s aren't very long. The par 5s aren't long in particular here. There are some longer par 4s, but Sung Jae Tom with their ability to hit the fairway, where their approach game's at right now, I do like both of them. I think I just take Sung Jae at the better price. He's 45-1, whereas Tom Kim's kind of been bet down to that 33-1 range. So that's kind of where my mind is at. And with this being like next week, we're going to be down to the top 50. The odds board is going to get even wonkier. Like this is kind of the last like real betting board that we're going to get. And I feel like I just almost got to kind of ride with my guys who have been playing good golf throughout the year, but just haven't cashed yet. And while Colin Morikawa has been that for me, Sung Jae Im has kind of been that as well. So that's kind of where my mind was going in this range. Don't know exactly if that's all I'm going to get to in this range, but if I do, if I do get to someone else, it would probably have to be further down because that 14-1 on Morikawa is just going to take up a big chunk. So not finalized what I'm going to do here. I will be having a final bet show with Joey Ricotta once again this week. We absolutely have to, as he's coming off of Johnny Vegas 90-1 cash, Aaron Rye 40-1 cash. So got to keep the ball rolling as we head into these FedEx Cup playoffs. But moving down the odds board a little bit, we got our guy Ross Billy Ho at 50-1, not our guy Cameron Young at 50-1 as well. Adam Scott, Sam Burns, both at 55, Lowry at 60, Wyndham Clark at 65, and then Harmon, Davis Thompson, Jordan Spieth, Matt Fitzpatrick at 70. You got anyone in this range, Ross, at all?
I do not. I have 2 deeper.
Do you have any were there any guys at all that like you wanted to shout out that intrigued you, or just is this range a complete pass?
I mean, the only one in here that has, and I can't even say the game has been consistent. It's when he's on, he's one of the most competitive out there. It's the Sam Burns in that range is really the only thing maybe I look at if the putter stays hot, but he can put the rest of the game together. But that was really everyone else in there. I was not super confident about. I think there's actually there's better value further than that.
Yeah.
Scratch, what do you got?
Same boat. I got 2 guys deeper, 2 names over 100. No interest in this range at all. None of these guys shout any interest from me.
Yeah, there isn't a lot for me either. The one that did get my eye, Davis Thompson 70-1. I don't know if he's ready to win a FedEx Cup playoff event, but this guy's a player, and he's been rolling these last few weeks. He didn't have it at the end of the Wyndham Championship on Sunday, and I can't really blame him, right? I think he had to play 40 holes in that day and just kind of seemed like he got fatigued, but he's really been playing well. The Rocket Mortgage was really kind of the U.S. Open, the Rocket Mortgage, he had a T2, and then he goes and wins at the John Deere, and he's been playing some pretty good golf since then, and there was an 80-1 number out there on him at the Bet Rivers Enhanced, but that was the only one that caught my eye. I haven't bet that yet, and again, I don't know if I'm going to because I don't know if I trust Davis Thompson to be like the cream of the crop on the PGA Tour yet, but I do think he's one of these guys from the back end that I think can hang, and I definitely think he's like in better form than a Jordan Spieth, who clearly is hurt. Matt Fitzpatrick's been lost all year, so lost that he apparently didn't know he had a weight in his driver for like 4 or 5 months, which is a pretty crazy storyline in and alone of itself, right? Like we've seen Wyndham Clark, Sam Burns, Brian Harmon all be inconsistent throughout their years, whereas Davis Thompson actually is entering the FedEx Cup with some consistency. So that was kind of the reason, and this is a Bermuda course. He putts well on Bermuda. Those were kind of the reasons that he caught my eye, but yeah, I'm in agreement with most of you guys. No one from this range really caught my eye too much, but we'll go from this 80 to 100 bucket. You guys have anyone before 100, or should we just skip right down to above 100? Scratch, I know you said you had two above 100. Ross, do you have anyone else before?
I have my final two are in this range.
Okay.
I have Max Homa at 75.
Had a good finish here last year, and it's a good number.
Good number. Yeah.
Just we know Max has the talent. I don't know what is going on, if it's between the ears, whatever, but plays this course really well historically, has good finishes, and I think that is a very respectable number. I mean, we're in the playoffs. This is where guys have to figure it out, or they're going home. Give me Max Homa, big pressure moment, putting it together to keep moving on. And then my only other one here, he's been on my card twice. He's finished second twice. We're going to go back one last time. I do have Max Greyserman at 100.
I almost think you have to. Man. You got to bite the bullet one more time. It's a great number for a guy who's playing really well.
Yeah,
only two times I shouted him out, man.
I was gonna go right back to him, Max. That I looked at FanDuel around 2:00. He was at 110. If he's at 100, I apologize for lying to you, Jack, earlier when I said I had two guys over 100. But yeah, it's like the Lucas Glover thing last year, right? The guy's hot. He's playing well. Shot well on Sunday at TPC Twin Cities. Played well at Sedgefield, obviously. Why not? Let's ride him. You're getting a good number. You got to do it, right? You got to do it. You've taken him this far. It's a trendy play, and you're getting a guy in triple digits. Let's ride. 100 to 1. And then my other play is I'm taking Denny. 150 to 1, I think, is what I got him at, or what I was looking at earlier. He's my guy. It's a course that you can putt well on. It's shorter from today's standards. You don't got to be super long, but I think he was 150 to 1 earlier, or my last two on the card.
And first, for Greyserman, another reason why I think you have to go back to him again, Ross, is even looking at the numbers, like even with the T-ball out of bounds and all of those bad putts, it's the second week in a row where he's gained strokes in significant strokes in all four major categories. And that, like, it feels like all parts of his game are rolling right now, and something like this could be sustainable. And I don't know if he's capable of winning against the big dogs just yet, but for the amount of money that you have to put down on a 110 to 1 number, I think it's absolutely worth it to run it back, considering the way that he's playing with all facets of his game right now. So I completely agree. Can never be too mad about a big number on Denny. And I do think it makes sense, given that this isn't the longest course in the world, right? Like, this is a place where he can theoretically hang if he's hitting his fairways and just gets that putter rolling hot on these Bermuda greens here. So I don't hate it whatsoever. The one last question I had with you guys, I should say, with this long shot board, I don't know if I really want to go there, but how does Robert McIntyre have the same odds as Alex Noren?
Yeah.
110 to 1. Like, I don't know if I'm going to bet Bob. I don't know how I don't think I'm going to bet Bobby Mack, but like last week he was 70 to 1 at the Wyndham Championship. And I'm like, I know admittedly this course doesn't set up great for him, but like, isn't that just a huge number for a guy who's won twice in 3 months?
Yeah. I'm out on him. I'm only betting Bobby Mack in National Open. That's my thing. I'll bet him in the fall at the Irish Open if he's playing the DP World Tour. But I do love it. It's so funny, Jack, because you get these guys at these crazy numbers, and you're like, I want to bet him out of principle, but I'll save my units. I'm out on Bobby Mack, even though you're getting a crazy number.
Right, you can't bet them all. Just thought it was an interesting debate to bring up. But was there any guys down the board at all that you wanted to shout out, or that you were even considering or think of are capable of hanging around with the big guys this week?
I kind of cut it off at the 100, but I did want to share, only because I thought it was absolutely fucking hilarious when you look at the odds board, that you go, Matthew Pavone is second to last at 300 to 1. And then Peter Malnati is dead last after him at 1,000 to
1,000 to 1.
Hey, Peter Malnati has the same amount of wins as Will Zalatoris and Cam Young combined.
I just love that the gap there is you got Matthew sitting at 300, and then 700 units behind that. That's Peter's going to be dead last on the board.
Don't forget that was funny.
Don't forget that guy with the bucket hat and the yellow golf ball outdueled Cameron Young on Sunday to win a golf tournament this year, fellas. That really did happen.
I think to this day that was Cameron Young's downfall, that he had to sit there and go, I just lost to that fucking guy.
literally. I might have broken him as well. What's the better value? Peter Malnati at there's too many zeros here, fellas. I don't even know. Is this 10,000?
1,000 to 1.
Yeah, 1,000 to 1 or Cam Young at 45 to 1. What's better value?
Honestly, give me the
Peter Malnati.
Yeah, Stinky Pete.
Stinky Pete. I love my Mizzou boys. $1 to win 1,000 on Peter Malnati this week. Should we bet him first round leader?
And then when he works his way into the top 10, you hedge that and get like $40 out of it.
Yeah, dude. It would have been something if Pete Malnati would have worked his way into the Comcast Business Tour top 10 this year. That would have been something. Any final thoughts before we kind of wrap this thing up? We're over the hour marker. I think we've covered most of the notable things that we needed to talk about, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging if there was any other talking points you wanted to get to before we kind of tie a bow on this thing.
No,
that's about what I had.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me, fellas. I had a blast. It was good talking golf with you guys.
Absolutely, Marco. Looking forward to watching some of the cool content that you have planned in store, both on YouTube and what you're going to be sharing on social media. Another reminder to everyone to go and check out Scratch Golf Show on X and the Scratch Golf Show on YouTube. Go and show some support to one of our buddies. It's a nice thing to do, and it won't cost you anything. It's 100% free. Scratch, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Apologies for starting a little bit late, but thanks for hanging in there with us, buddy. Really appreciate joining on, and let's go Colin Morikawa this week. Hopefully you'll get a dub, and we'll be talking about all the money we have in our accounts when we go and do another show here in a couple of weeks.
That's right, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Subscribe to the Scratch Golf Show. Got some cool stuff coming. Ross, Jack, thank you guys so much for allowing me to come on your platform and talk about me. Awesome. Have a good night, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scratch. And thank you to everyone out there who tuned into this episode. Be sure to go and follow Golf on Tap on X. Subscribe to On Tap Sportsnet as well on YouTube. That is also free. Won't cost you anything. If you want to find me on X, you can check out Jack Bushman too. You can find Ross at RossJohn22. Be on the lookout for me and Joey Ricotta going live on Wednesday night with our final bets ahead of the start of the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Until then, everyone have a great rest of your night.